Hey everybody and welcome to the podcast roundups. Today we're talking about my chat that I had with Nick Hannah, a physio from Canada, aka Hannah Moves. Myself and Nick, we spoke about the biopsychosocial model and tackling belief systems. So first off, what is the biopsychosocial model? I butcher it if I were to try and put it myself, but Nick said it something like this.
Its name really speaks to what it is. So it's an acknowledgement of an interconnection between biological, psychological, and social factors. Very briefly, it's a way to study health or disease in a person by acknowledging them as a cohesive whole. We, as human beings, like to compartmentalize things and think of things in little boxes: biological, psychological, social. Like I just did it. When the interpretation of the model isn't quite that at all. It shouldn't be dichotomized into biological and then psychosocial, or it shouldn't be trichotomized into those three categories. The way I make sense of it, if you were to take three pieces of Play-Doh that were three different colors, symbolizing those three different categories, and you mash them all together and started mixing them up into one cohesive whole, that would be the model that we're practicing under. And so it's really just an acknowledgement of a person as a complex ecosystem and not a bag of bones with a brain and tissues. It's more how our biological entity emerges in the context and the environment in which we live, how we think, and how those things interconnect. Summarizing it is looking at the whole person and not, a particular area of the body or a particular area of the mind or a particular context. It's really the emergent, cohesive whole that makes up the complexity of who we are.
So all that to say, it's taking a holistic view of the patient. He feels that it gives you the capability to look at a person more broadly and, more importantly, help that person help themselves. So what do? How do you go about tackling it? Again, during our talk, Nick highlights the importance of tackling multiple aspects of our multifaceted patients. That includes beliefs, behaviors, the drivers for said behavior, but don't get confrontational. Try not to talk about those things directly. You can try things like questionnaires beforehand, asking them questions around why they believe they are where they are. And when it comes to pain science, don't make it complicated. Language is key. Don't inadvertently scare someone with messaging that might give them the impression that they're broken. Change only happens at the speed of trust. Going back to that idea of challenging belief systems, don't jump right into it and ask yourself, is it truly necessary? Do you need to challenge it to get the patient to their goal? Because humans are tribal by nature. And then if you still want to, there's 4 steps for you. You've got to find out what it is that they believe and then ask them why they believe that. Once you've done that, you then need to validate their beliefs. Show them that you understand what they're saying, why they're saying it, why they're coming at it from the angle that they're coming from. And before you go any further, you need to ask them permission first. You need to ask if they're okay with you providing another viewpoint. And if they're not, it might just be at that moment in time they're not, and you can come back to it at a later stage. Further to that, Nick also mentions that N is also equal to 1. Basically, wanting to underscore the fact that each patient is different and you can't use a one-size-fits-all approach or just fob someone off with a video you saw online, because there's always nuance to the patient, to their complaints, and what will help them as the individual. Another important highlight that I don't think we as physios give enough thought to is that we can't help everybody, and despite our best effort, some people may choose another avenue for treatment. And again, further to what I said, N is always 1, so you can't just one size fits all. There are a few other anecdotes and elements that we touched on within our podcast, so to check out the full episode, head over to www.physiotutors.com/podcast and check out episode 6, or wherever you get your podcast from. For more on Nick, you can check him out on hannahmoves on Instagram or www.hannahmoves.com. Thanks for watching, and before you go, don't forget to smash that like button.